welcome to UC Today with me, David Dungay. Today I'm joined by Mike from Computer Talk. Welcome to the show, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great, David. Thank you very much for having me today. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about Omni-Channel and those alternative channels people can plug into their contact center, and a little bit around the customer trends Mike is seeing as well. But before we get into that conversation, Mike, can you give us a bit of an intro to yourself and the business?
Yeah, would love to. Thank you again for your time, David. So, name is Mike Kraybill. I'm the U.S. Sales Executive here at Computer Talk. I do forefront all of our U.S. Customer opportunities and existing customer accounts, and do work on some of our international opportunities as well. But have been with the company for about 15 months now, but in the contact center space since early 2016. So a lot of great conversations, a lot of great insights over those last 6.5 years, and hopefully some great dialogue I can provide for you today.
Great. So, Omni-Channel. I feel like we've been talking about Omni-Channel for a long, long time now. What does it mean for you, like today? And is Omni-Channel just table stakes for contact centers now?
Yeah, I would say that just knowing the way that communication demands are changing in the world, Omni-Channel is absolutely a table stake part of a standard customer's communication channels, and it's something that's only going to increase in time. So, reality is that over the last few years, we've seen trends towards folks starting to have those conversations if they're still just the traditional voice-only call center, but also new, unique ways folks are looking at addressing the omni-channel side of the world. And I can tell you with transparency that the social media conversation is one that we've been having a lot, especially over these last handful of years. But you hit the nail on the head, David. Omni-channel is quickly becoming something that if folks don't already have a strategy and a plan for it, they're starting those conversations around it. And my goal is to always have those conversations with those folks to make sure they can make the informed decision to make sure that the implementation of omni-channel is a successful one.
I want to pick up on that social media point. What are you seeing? What kind of opportunities is social media bringing to businesses who are trying to connect more intuitively with their customers?
Yeah, so social media in itself is a giant conversation, giant topic, because there's really two different forms of communication that can be brought into the contact center. So you have your real-time communications, which could be, folks reaching out to a company via their Facebook page or maybe sending an Instagram direct message. So you've got that real-time aspect of the communication that folks are looking for from a social media standpoint. But then you've also got your more traditional forums. It could be, conversation and chat forums. It could be something like Twitter, where people are making posts about a company. So we're really seeing it twofold there. And really it comes down to what's necessary for each business, because there are folks that are just getting comfortable with social media and really don't have any sort of instant messaging capabilities. There are other companies that are highly invested in social media and need to make sure that their agents are comfortable handling those real-time conversations through a Facebook Messenger or an Instagram, but also make sure that since social media never sleeps, they can always account for those mentions on sites like Twitter and make sure that they're representing the company in the right way.
I think anyone who's spent any time on social media will be familiar with the kinds of comments and things people leave about brands on those various platforms. Some positive, some negative. What's your advice to those businesses about how they should handle the mentions of their brand on social?
Yeah, so it's absolutely true. I mean, I think we all know it. You go online and you can see all the positive and all the negatives you want about a company. And my advice, first and foremost, just down to the brass tacks of it, is have a plan for it. Understand the right way to start to address those mentions of your company and those direct interactions folks are looking for. But from the representative side of things, my advice is always, when you have that integration and you're going to respond, just breathe. Take your time. Make sure you understand how you're responding back to those mentions of your customer or of your company, or those interaction requests through a messaging app. Because the reality is, David, every communication that you have, you're representing your company. So make sure it's well thought out. Make sure it's well written. Make sure that the communication that you're providing is representing your company in the right way. Because as you've already mentioned, and as we know, social media never sleeps. It's not going away. It's just going to continue to have a larger presence.
And tell me about some of those important customer trends you're sort of thinking about and looking at right now. When it comes to these businesses, adding these omni-channels or alternative channels.
Yeah, so really to me it's a very unique conversation. And while the conversation around omnichannel has been happening for a long time, to me it's felt like it's always the same types of topics. And I think that folks need to take more of a organic and wholesale approach to it and start to understand that there's factors that are going to contribute to the demand for these new channels of communication that you probably haven't thought about before. And what I mean by that is even just simple demographics. Understanding that there's different preferences for channels of communication based on demographics alone. We know that past generations probably lead towards that voice channel more than anything. But just like the need for omni-channel has changed and call centers have become contact centers, the newer generations tend to look for those more, I would call them real-time communication opportunities. If that's going to be an SMS, if it's going to be a web chat, we just know that the younger generations tend to prefer that. But even past that changing demographic, there's other topics that are important. We have real things we have to consider, like conditions. I mean, there are some folks who just have anxieties and don't want to have that live human-to-human interaction. And for those folks, something like a chatbot can be a great way to ensure that they feel like they're connected with the company, but don't have to have one of those, anxiety-inducing conversations. And you also think about things like how we represent and help the hearing impaired. They can't have the traditional voice communication, so they need to find a different way to communicate. So again, I know those are a wide variety of topics. There's a whole lot more we could talk about, but the general consensus around it is start to think a little bit outside of the box. Start to understand what your existing customers and potential customers look like, and just try to provide ways for everyone across your demographics to understand they can communicate with the company and feel like their voice is being heard.
I want to pick up on a couple of things you mentioned there. Chatbots being one, AI being the other one. How are these technologies really helping agents become, these super agents is the term I keep hearing in the industry. What are you seeing on that front exactly?
Yeah, absolutely. So chatbots to me are a fantastic new technology that is available for many different companies, and I think it's something that is worth a great conversation and some analysis. Now, the reality is that chatbots might be more effective for some businesses than others, and some might not be necessary for some businesses. But just like the conversation around OmniChannel, understanding what are the factors that influence if a chatbot makes sense. And I've always said that from a chatbot standpoint, the most effective use of a chatbot is to help address some of the remedial and repetitive tasks that agents have to deal with. So that could be something as simple as getting the same call 10 times a day for, hey, I need to reset my password. Or, I need to find my account number. Can you help me with that? The beauty behind a chatbot is you have the ability to let the chatbot handle that interaction. And you can allow your agents to truly become a super agent and have the ability to start taking on more high-value conversations or handle some of those real-time communications and not have to be kind of stuck in the mud helping those same communications and conversations they have every single day. But again, we can go back to another benefit of a chatbot and say it's another option for the folks that just don't feel comfortable having a voice communication. So, a third piece of this is if you have an agent base or a customer service representative base that maybe isn't the most proficient at communicating outside of the voice channel, well then a chatbot can serve as another agent. It's just an interactive and automated intelligence aspect that can provide that agent communication to a customer. So again, chatbots are a fantastic new piece of technology in our industry, and it's a conversation I love to have. Just it's a very wide variety of topics that come with the chatbot. I can tell you that with confidence.
Have we all accepted now that many of our conversations that start online might be initiated through a chatbot? Are people okay with that now?
So it's definitely more prevalent than it used to be, even a couple of years ago. And I will say just transparently, my own use case. Anytime I go onto a website and click chat with me now, I'm always curious to see, is this actually a bot that I'm talking to, or is it a human? And what's fascinating is there's certain things you can look for to identify if it's a chatbot. things like the type of response you're getting. I think, David, most of us can tell when it's a canned response. If it seems very general and something that you probably wouldn't type out as a human, it's probably going to be a chatbot. But they're absolutely getting more and more prevalent from the web chat experience. And I can tell you that we at Computer Talk have done a really good job of trying to alleviate some of those tendencies to let people know that it's a chatbot they're communicating with. And we've got things like pre-built delays. So when the communication's coming back from the agent, which is actually a chatbot, we make it more of a natural kind of pace, where it's not an instantaneous response. Also, just the type of response that comes out, the language that's being used, so it doesn't seem so robotic. So I would 100% agree with you. We're seeing chatbots more and more. They're becoming more and more prevalent in the online world for a customer's communication platform. But it's fascinating to see the improvements we're making to take that artificial intelligence experience and try to make it more like a human-to-human interaction.
Great. So there'll be a lot of businesses watching today, Mike, who'll be thinking about their alternative channels and where they should start their journey. What is your advice to those businesses looking to enrich their customer interactions with some of the technology we've been talking about today?
Yeah. So the point for me will always start with understand what your customer base needs, understand what your customer base looks like. And a really good way to start with that is if you're just doing voice communications, it doesn't hurt to have a post-call survey where an option can be, would you like us to start offering email? Press 1. Would you like us to start offering web chat? Have the chance to kind of survey and analyze your existing customer base to understand, is this something that we need to do? Would this have some merit? The other key piece I would take out of that conversation is, again, understand what your customer base looks like. Understand the customers that you don't currently have. Start to take that conversation to a level of, if we decide to implement a new channel of communication, do we have the right kind of talent within our facility to answer those communications efficiently and effectively? And then you start getting into the conversation of examining the current talent you have within your representatives. Do we have the right type of folk to be a blended agent and take additional channels of communication? Or do we need to look outside of the current structure we have and say, hey, we need to do some new hiring and some new talent acquisition comes into place? So the easiest way to implement OmniChannel, in my opinion, is to slowly implement something like email. Because the great thing about email is it doesn't have the same type of service level agreement as a live communication like a web chat or an SMS. So when I talk to a customer that's just using voice and they want to look at doing OmniChannel, obviously take all those factors into play, but the easy way to do it is let's start with a few emails. Let's have the folks who have a good skill set from a written standpoint. Let's have them take some emails, and let's introduce email as that first line of new communication for your customers.
Fantastic. So, Mike, I think that's a great place to end today's discussion. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your insights.
David, it was an absolute pleasure. I appreciate the time. Good to talk to you as always, and thank you again for having me today.
And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. That's it from me. See you next time.